This is a second video to do with Sweater Quilt 2. And on the floor here you see my denim panel that now has my bluebirds on it. And I have to keep saying it's hard to make videos if I'm going to make videos. I did recently have to get a wheelchair. I also use a walker and a cane. And just for a moment I'll explain why sometimes videos are difficult. I have what is called polyneuropathy, and it's basically that the nerves don't send the correct signals to your muscles all the time. So some days the cane works, some days the walker works, and some days I need the wheelchair. And the danger is that I could just be walking somewhere or doing something and my leg will give out. Or I've had trouble with my hands too. I'm going to a specialist. Hopefully it's not a long-term problem, but you have to be able to treat the underlying cause of the nerve damage. So, and I had gotten hit by lightning, so I'm not sure it's going to get any better. Now, it's very frustrating. As many of you know, I have a lot of sewing machine videos up. And since I got the wheelchair, it doesn't fit at any of my tables for my sewing machine. So I'm down to one sewing machine that is, well, I actually have, I have more than one I can use. But the Spartan by Singer is a hand crank, and it's the easiest one to keep at the kitchen table, which is the one table that the wheelchair goes under most easily. So in a video after this one, I'm going to be working with the Spartan just a bit and seeing if I can get the feed dogs to feed straight, which makes quilting easier. But in the meantime, I wanted to show you a couple of things about this. Now, here's my knitted panel on the back, and I had forgotten to put in the first video that when you knit your 18 inches, you then just want to bind off loosely. And I did mention you could also use a knitting board, crochet, a weaving, a scarf loom. And in those cases you would follow the directions for ending the piece that comes with whatever you're using. So anyway, on the knitting you bind off loosely, and you can see that because one fabric is knit and one is woven denim, that it bunches. The denim, the knitting is pulling back together a little bit, and so what you have to do, and I was doing this using my knees, believe it or not. And this is one of the funny parts, is with my polyneuropathy. I sometimes can get down on the floor and then can't get up because my legs don't want to work. But here I am using my knees to hold that stretched completely. You could use heavy paperweights or bricks or clamps, anything you have that'll hold it extended and even. You want the knitting on the back to match your pre-cut piece of fabric. And then you want to use a lot of pins. And it's this way with knits anyway, that generally when you're machine sewing them, you have to put some tension on the fabric. You have to pull or even out the fabric as you sew most knits. So it's a little more hands-on than sewing with, say, only denim, where the feed dogs just move everything through evenly. So even though that looks puckered, it really won't be when I get to the point of sewing it, because the feed dogs of the machine will be holding this corner, and then I can just pull this fabric out now and make sure I'll get an even stitch. So here is one panel. And as I said, it's still bunching because I haven't sewn it yet. I'm going to go around the edges. And I had said in the first video or in the information of it that it's a good idea to go right down the center also to keep the pieces together on the back. You don't want really your knitting flapping around. But what might be, if your design is like this, what might be better is to do a rectangle right around your design. And so on the back, it won't show because it'll all sink into the knitting anyway. But on the back, you would have an inner rectangle and then an outer edge rectangle. So there is one panel that is roughly 6 by 18 that after I work with the Spartan a little bit, I'm going to start making more panels, and eventually I will be sewing these into a quilt. And these bluebirds were done with acrylic paint.